Welcome to another installment of Defending Israel. I am your host, Rabbi Pinchas Landis. The Boycott, Divest, and Sanction movement is one of the most insidious tools being used in the present war against the Jewish people. The movement advocates for boycotting Israeli products and academics, divesting from investments in Israel or Israeli products, and financial sanctions against the State of Israel. On their website, they claim BDS upholds the simple principle that Palestinians are entitled to the same rights as the rest of humanity. It presents itself as a grassroots, left-leaning social justice movement to, quote, end international support for Israel's oppression of Palestinians and pressure Israel to comply with international law. This makes it sound like their actions are only a reaction to Israel's policies and the, quote, occupied territories, and only in order to press the Israeli government to do the right thing and give the Palestinians a state so they can live side by side in peace with Israel. There is nothing new about Arabs boycotting Jews, and it has nothing to do with recent political issues. The first Arab boycott of Jews dates back to 1945, 3 years before the modern state of Israel was established. It was the first act of the then newly established Arab League. At its peak in 1951, more than 8,500 companies were under the influence of the Arab League's Boycott Committee. The concept lost steam after the 1967 and 73 wars, but was brought back with a vengeance in 2005. In nearly 20 years, they have had incredible success in convincing young Americans and some politicians that they just want justice for all. This could not be further from the truth. The movement is not for peace and justice. They offer no solutions for peace anywhere. Here are the stated goals of the BDS movement from their website. Number 1, ending Israel's occupation and colonization of all Arab lands. What is meant by all Arab lands? On the surface, they are intentionally opaque, but their leaders couldn't be more clear when asked. So says founder of the movement, Omar Barghouti. No Palestinian would ever accept a Jewish state in any part of Palestine. I am completely and categorically against binationalism because it assumes that there are two nations with equal and moral claims to the land. Could not be more clear. Goal number 2, recognizing the fundamental rights of the Arab Palestinian citizens of Israel to full equality. Palestinians in Israel have full equality. They serve in the Knesset and on the Supreme Court and are represented in all echelons of Israeli society. Why not focus on how Palestinians are treated by Hamas in Gaza, where any opposition is put down with violence and murder, not to mention wonderful trappings of Sharia law like honor killings of women? Goal number 3, respecting, protecting, and promoting the right of Palestinian refugees to return to their homes and properties. Now, we addressed in a previous video how UNRWA is the only refugee organization in the world that recognizes inherited refugee status. These refugees were created from the 1948 war that Israel didn't start, and many of the refugees left due to the encouragement of Arab leaders. Today, there are maybe 30,000 of those refugees left. But BDS, using the distorted UNRWA counting, wants over 7 million Arabs to be able to return to their homes in Israel. Do the math. 7 million Palestinians returning, combined with 1.5 million Palestinians already in Israel, to a country of presently under 10 million people. If that happens, there goes the Jewish state. The BDS website is full of disinformation and misinformation. For example, it states that Israel was formed in 1948 through the brutal displacement of nearly 800,000 Palestinians and the destruction of more than 530 towns and villages. This premeditated ethnic cleansing, known as Al-Nakba, the catastrophe. But This fails to mention the fact that the UN voted to partition the land in 1947. The Jews accepted the partition. The Arabs not only rejected it, but waged war on the nascent Jewish state with the goal of destroying it. That aggressive war, spearheaded by 6 Arab countries, is what caused the displacement, not the Jews. If anything was premeditated, it was premeditated by the Arabs. The site goes on to state, Israel carried out horrific massacres of Palestinians in Gaza in 2008, 2009, 2012, and 2014. Israel deliberately attacked Palestinian civilians, schools, hospitals, and other civilian infrastructure, and other war crimes. Now, this fails to mention that Israel was responding in all of those conflicts to a barrage of cross-border attacks, including over 15,000 rockets and mortars fired into Israel by Hamas, and that Hamas embeds their military infrastructure amongst civilians. Not to mention, Israel knocks on buildings before bombing, drops leaflets, calls and texts cell phones to warn of impending attacks. And this is not even including their criticism of the present war in Gaza. Here's some more disinformation. Since 2006, Israel has imposed a siege of Gaza that makes it virtually impossible for the vast majority of Palestinians to leave and severely restricts the movement of goods into and out of Gaza. Now, this fails to mention that Israel left Gaza in 2005 and only got rockets in return. That is why Israel and Egypt set up the siege to begin with. The BDS movement is saying that Israel and Egypt should just sit back and let Hamas receive shipments of weapons and munitions from Iran. And why is Egypt always left out of this? It is clear from this analysis of the BDS website that it is not there to help Palestinians, rather it only aims to hurt Israel. Now, the best example of this is what happened to the company SodaStream. In 2007, the company opened a facility in the West Bank that employed 850 Arabs and 250 Jews with the goal of fostering peace and interactions. Arabs and Israelis were paid more than 4 times the Palestinian Authority's minimum wage. The social justice warriors at BDS got a whiff of this terrible coexistence, and they unleashed their bloodhounds. Nabi Bashrat, a Palestinian SodaStream employee, said, BDS is causing the most amount of damage to Palestinian workers. The BDS movement is pressuring SodaStream, saying that the company treats us like slaves. This is a lie. We work here together, Arabs and Jews, Israelis and Palestinians. My salary is 3 times higher than it was before, and I get health benefits for me and my family. BDS has no interest in the Palestinian workers. He pleaded with the BDS movement to let go of SodaStream, which they completely ignored. In 2015, the factory in the West Bank relocated to the Negev Desert as a consequence of the pressure, eliminating hundreds of good-paying jobs for Palestinians. Great work, BDS. Way to have the best interests of the Palestinians in mind. In 2015, the RAND Corporation estimated that the BDS movement cost the Palestinian economy roughly $2 billion a year. The goal of every liberal social justice cause should be peace, which comes from more normalization and collaboration, not less. While BDS has had a devastating effect on the Palestinian economy, it has barely touched the Israeli economy. What's the real goal? When you keep people poor and desperate, they are more likely to get sucked into radicalism. So where does BDS really come from? Let's just follow the money. BDS on campus is not a grassroots movement driven by ideological college students as they want you to believe. Rather, it is a savvy, strategic, political, and well-funded organization. This is all a rebranding of the Palestinian cause to make it more palatable and less tied to terrorism for the average liberal American college student. When they saw that their genocidal message of from the river to the sea was not gaining acceptance in the Western world, they pivoted and started pouring their resources into American and European colleges to influence future leaders and voters. In 2016, former U.S. Treasury terrorism analyst Jonathan Schanzer testified before Congress on the ties between BDS and Hamas. He is an expert in uncovering and unraveling financial ties that are designed to be hidden. He stated, at least 7 individuals who work for or on behalf of American Muslims for Palestine, which is the backer of the BDS movement, have worked for or on behalf of organizations previously shut down or held civilly liable in the United States for providing financial support to Hamas. In other words, the same folks who are backing the BDS movement are the same exact folks who are backing Hamas with the same exact goals of destroying the Jewish state and the Jewish people. American Muslims for Palestine has been sending strategists, digital and communication experts, graphic designers, video editors, legal advisors to colleges across the country, putting out convincing literature and social media content, running flashy events in fancy hotels, luring in students who are unsuspecting of the fact that the organization is backed by terrorist money. As Dr. Schanzer said, Americans have the right to know who is behind the BDS campaign, and so do the members of the BDS campaign who may not fully understand its history. Most Americans don't know, and those involved are being played as useful idiots. In conclusion, the BDS movement is not a progressive, grassroots social justice movement as it appears to be on the surface. Rather, it is the sophisticated, savvy, and well-funded PR front of the war against the Jewish people and the Jewish state. This concludes our Defending Israel series. Stay tuned for our next informative Jewish history series, which will be coming your way shortly. Be well.